Hello, welcome or welcome back to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all of the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Welcome. Today I have a fluff to finished object video to share with you today. It is coming up towards the end of June as I'm recording this. I'm coming back. I think this will be my first video back after my sort of a few week hiatus. So yeah, it's nice to be back. Thank you for joining me again. I have a video that's been quite a few months in the making for you today. I am weaving a scarf with my handspun yarn. So yeah, I thought I'd pop in that little explanation to say that this has been a project in progress for quite some time. Otherwise the video clips that follow are not going to make sense. I started to spin for this way back in January, and I've just kind of taken my time and procrastinated here and there along the way, as we do. But I now have a finished project. So it's high time that I get this video all edited together and share it with you. So I shall hand over to me from the past, and I hope you enjoy. I thought I might do a little series of videos about spinning down my amazing 2021 spinning cart. So if you've been watching for a while, you may have watched my video detailing my spinning plans for the year, and I picked out, let me just angle you down slightly, I've got one of those sort of three-tiered wheelie carts behind me there, and I picked out a bunch of fibre from my stash that had been gifted to me by dear friends. And my goal is to try and spin through as much of that fibre as I can. I have a tendency to hoard things, and particularly to hoard gifts, because yeah, I get into that mindset of, oh, it's too precious to use. But 2021 is the year of trying to move past that, to use my stuff and enjoy my stuff, and it deserves to be used and enjoyed, because that is the spirit in which it was gifted after all. Because I do also want to spin at least one of the fleeces that I have as well, which I didn't mention in that video, it slipped my mind. So yeah, and I'm sure other things will come and sidetrack me, because they always do, don't they? New shinies sometimes jump the queue. So yeah, we shall see by the end of 2021 how many of those quantities of fibre that I managed to get through. As I am recording this, it's the 27th of January, and this is my first spin off of the cart. It wasn't until about halfway through the month that I actually pulled out the fibre for the cart, and by then I'd started another spin, so I've been working my way through that in January, which is why I'm starting late. But to try and get through these, I need to spin 2 of these a month, so I'm already behind. But it's a very loose goal. I'm not putting any pressure on myself over this. If it stops being fun, then I'm going to stop. Yeah, the idea is just to give myself a path to follow, I guess, rather than a goal. Let's put it like that. Anyway, I've been waffling for a good couple of minutes already, and I haven't mentioned what I'm going to be spinning for this vlog. So I've picked out, I just grabbed randomly from my cart. Well, not really that randomly. I had a peruse and I picked something that's really speaking to me for the moment. I'm kind of obsessed with browns and natural colours at the moment. So I've grabbed this glorious braid of fibre from Attic Spin Dye, and this is the Foxy colourway. Let me just hold it back a little bit. Look at those amazing browns, and there's mustard and rusty oranges in there, even sort of tints of green. It's just a glorious braid of fibre, and this was kindly gifted to me by Andy and Angela of Attic Spin Dye. It's 100% superwash merino. So yeah, I'm going to pop this onto my e-spinner and to give it a spin. My treader wheel at the moment has got my fleece spin on, so I don't want to sort of mess around with that, adjust any of the settings, and I've got quite a few spindle projects on the go as well. So yeah, this is going to be a e-spinner project. So yeah, I'm going to unravel this braid and give it a go. So my first decision is how I'm going to spin this, and I guess the unravelling of the braid might help me take a look at how this has been dyed overall, and make a decision on that. So I've sort of braided the Foxy colourway from Attic Spin Dye. Look at all those beautiful colours laid out. There are definitely a few different ways that I could spin this fibre. I've just folded the fibre in half and then folded it back on itself again, and the colours are just absolutely beautiful. And I like the idea of mixing them up and maybe doing a fractal. But let me just rearrange the braid a moment and show you something slightly different. So I've folded the fibre sort of back on itself several times, and I imagine this is probably the way that the fibre was dyed. And you can see like a really nice sort of gradient fade between these darker colours to these sort of lighter greens and browns. So I'm tempted to actually pull this fibre apart and try and make almost like a gradient. So try and spin sort of like all of these colours together, all of those colours together, and then those colours together. The only question mark in my mind is this end. There's sort of greens and browns. I'm not sure whether to try and separate those entirely. It's probably not going to be possible. If I flip that fibre, it's more green that side and brown that side. And up here as well, it wouldn't be possible to keep the colours entirely separate because I'm sure some of the dye goes over the staple length. But yeah, I think I might be willing to have a play with this and try and separate the colours out and make some sort of gradient. Split the fibre down, and I've got sort of 3 piles. I've got the darker brown, then that sort of like mid sort of rusty yellow orange, and then the greeny browns on the end. Might be slightly regretting my decision now that I've split the fibre down, but hey, I've done it. We're going to go for it. There are no wrongs in this. It's all just for fun and learning. So my spin is started, and as you can see, I have spun up the majority of the sort of darker parts of the fibre. Over here, ignore that basket, over here is the rest of the fibre, and I've started splitting apart the next sort of deepest colourway. These go from dark browns through to some of the sort of mustardy colours. So I'm going to probably, because there are still some bits here with the darker brown tips, I think I'm going to pull off some staple lengths from these as well, and then lay them all out to try and get a sort of smoothish colour variation for my fade. So I'll be getting into the sort of slightly more tricky part of the spin now, where these sort of staple lengths have a couple of colours going across them. So yeah, we'll see how the next bit turns out so far. For the most part, this is fairly consistent. As you can see, I've got some slightly darker bits and some slightly more sort of chestnut bits on this first sort of section of the spin. Yeah, on to the next. We'll see how it goes. This was a real joy to spin this fibre, beautifully dyed and really lovely to spin from. I've started to prep the next part of my spin. This is turning out to be more work than I imagined, but it's fun work, and it's definitely a learning process. Playing with colour is really fun. So I've got the next batch of the fibre. So these are the sort of colours that I have portioned together, but I'm trying to split these down even further. Let me show you what I mean. So this is one sort of portion of the fibre that I pulled out from the braid. As you can see, I've got quite a brown tip on the end, and we've got these glorious mustard sort of golden yellows, and then we're going towards sort of the greeny browns at this end, which will eventually lead to the next batch of fibre. So what I'm actually doing is splitting these down even further. So you can see I'm starting to make 3 piles here. So these bits, I'm pre-drafting these bits, these big chunks of fibre down into smaller nests. These are the bits at the tip which have got bits of brown, and as you can see, they're going into the goldens. And then these ones are more the goldens. And then at the end here, I've got the stuff that's going into the lighter. So I'm going to spin this pile onto my bobbin first, then this, and then this, to try and maintain that fade effect that I wanted to try and achieve with this spin. I thought I'd do a quick check-in with my Foxy spin. It's the 9th of February and this is taking me a bit longer than I thought. I haven't really been in the mood for spinning somehow over the last few days, so it hasn't progressed as quickly as I wanted, but I have got another spinning project on the go, my Blue Face Less Than Natural Dye spin from Nelly and Eve, that I have made a decision on how I want to ply that yarn so that I can get going with my knit project from that yarn, which is incentivizing me to get my e-spinner free so that I can do that plying. So I thought I'd show you, sorry for the shaky cam, I've left my tripod upstairs, but I thought I'd show you the progress that I've made with the Foxy spin and what I have left. So here is the yarn, the singles on my e-spinner. This is lightening up the colours somewhat. This colour here is quite a rich sort of deep gold colour, but it's not showing quite right on my screen at least. So yeah, I've done the sort of darkest portions of the fibre, and then these are all the sort of mid portions. I've got the lightest bits left, sort of the greens going into browns. So let me show you what I've got left. I've probably got about a third of the fibre left, I would say. So this is all of the fibre that I've got left. So I've still got some bits that have got some nice sort of deep browny yellow tips to them. But most of these are in the sort of green brown range. So I'm going to continue the same process that I have been doing with this fibre so far, just pulling it out into staple lengths, more or less like this, and then drafting them out. And then once I've drafted them out, kind of lay them out and try and group them together so that they're all in sort of sections that are sort of roughly harmonious in terms of their colourway once they're pre-drafted. Yeah, still quite a lot of spinning to go, but I reckon once I have done the splitting and the drafting, I can sit down and get into it and it'll be done before I know it. It's Sunday the 14th of February. Happy Valentine's Day. Not that this is going to be going up anywhere near Valentine's Day, but it is freezing here today in South Wales. I've just started a fire down behind me, but I wanted to check in to show you that I finished spinning the singles on my Foxy spin, which is fantastic. It also means I can let those singles rest for a bit and ply for my Nelly and Eve spin, which I'm making another vlog for, so I can have an afternoon full of spinning, hopefully. So here they are, my finished singles, finished on the lighter side of the fibre, so the greens and the browns, and I'm really intrigued to chain ply this together to see what the yarn turns out like. I think it'll be really fun to rediscover some of the colours that are underneath this top layer, those beautiful sort of chestnut browns I remember back from the start. So yeah, at some point in the next few days I will get this spun up. It's pouring down with rain here in South Wales today. It's Tuesday the 16th of February. I hope the sound of the rain in the background isn't too distracting if you can hear it. But I wanted to check in because I have finished my Foxy spin, if you can believe it. The skein does need properly finishing, i.e. soaking and thwacking and letting the yarn settle and all that good stuff. But I thought I'd show you the yarn on the Niddy Noddy. I think I'll probably turn the camera around so that I can spread the yarn out properly and show you that I have, I'm really happy to have actually achieved a gradient yarn with a braid of fibre that wasn't dyed intentionally as a gradient. So yeah, I'm really pleased with this kind of fun experiment, and the yarn's turned out beautifully. So let me turn you around so you can have a look. I've taken the yarn off of the niddy noddy now, and I think you can see more of what I was trying to say about the different sections of the yarn. Such a beautiful fibre, beautifully dyed. My foxy spin is finished. It's been washed and it's dried, so I thought I would show you my finished skein of yarn. I'm really pleased with how this has turned out. It's puffed up really nicely, and I think now it's all washed and dried, you can definitely see that sort of gradient effect. It's got a little bit mixed up because it's not entirely laying flat, but I think you can see that lovely gradient effect that I was going for, where we've moved from these lovely sort of darker browns through to those gorgeous sort of mustardy gold tones, and then through to the lighter browns and the greens at the end there. I would say it's a nice puffy sort of DK, maybe sliding towards worsted weight. So pleased with how this colourway has turned out. I think I'm going to weave with it. I'm still on the search for that perfect length scarf. As you may know, if you followed here for a while, I've tried to weave a couple of scarves. One turned out to be slightly too short and one turned out to be too long. So maybe third time's the charm with this yarn. I think it would make a really lovely sort of gradient scarf or wrap. So I'm hoping to warp up my loom shortly and start weaving with this. After I finished, I did think about wouldn't it be nice to have a sort of fade in the wrap from end to end, so have a little bit of dark at each end and then a little bit of the sort of mustardy gold at each end, and then all of the sort of lighter bit in the middle, and then so that's one idea that I've got in my head, but it did occur to me that if I was going to do that, I could have spun intentionally for that by splitting the fibre and then I'm spinning in the right order to do that, but we'll see. I'll get the loom warped up at some point and then make a decision then. This fibre, so beautifully dyed by Andy over at Attic Spin Dye, and just a really beautiful colourway. I think last time I looked in the shop they don't have any of this colourway left, but I would say keep an eye on the shop because you never know, they may restock this beautiful colourway soon. This was the Foxy colourway. Fast forward several months, we're now in May, and as you may know, I have determined that throughout May I'm going to be working with my handspun. So it's finally time to warp up the loom and get this foxy spin woven. Apologies for the light and the graininess of the video. It's one of those days where it keeps chucking it down with rain and then really bright sunshine, so I'm working with the light that we have, and I want to get this done today because I have no projects to work on right now. So I'm about to warp up my loom. I'm using a new to me loom today. If you've watched the few weaving videos that I popped up in the past, you might remember that I have been weaving on a shacked cricket loom, a small sort of 10-inch loom, but a little while ago I was able to pick up secondhand a 16-inch Ashford rigid heddle loom instead. So I'm going to try out that for the first time today, and although I'm going to be weaving a fairly narrow width which would fit on my shacked, I'm hoping the slightly sort of wider space will mean that I have less issues with my warping tension. I was having some problems with the shacked, trying to squeeze as much width as possible onto there and getting my warp in a bit of a tizzy as a result. I have decided to use a skein of, now what is this? West Yorkshire Spinners Croft DK. This is the same yarn that I knit my Aqua Miri cardigan in recently, so I've decided to use that as the warp and the handspun as my weft. So I'm going to get going on warping this up. I think I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm on a quest to try and achieve a sort of decent scarf length. So this was a handspun piece that I did weave previously, and I warped up my loom between two fixed points here in my dining room. This turned out to be slightly shorter than I wanted it to. I've got quite a lot of sort of room left in the warp though. I just run out of my handspun yarn. So I'm hoping that by, if I pop this on, if I sort of wrap this around my neck, it's a little bit too short. If this came down to about the same length as this side, I'd be much happier with it. Yeah, I'm hoping that if I can warp a slightly narrower piece and make it slightly longer, that I'll get the perfect length. Now there are websites around and books around that will help you figure out your warp length, but you've been here before, you know what I'm like. I'd rather just get going and make a mess of it than do a bit of preparation and have something that works. I don't know why, that's just me. I like to learn by my mistakes, I guess. This is the first time I've got this Ashford rigid heddle out of the box that it came in. There's a couple of pieces missing. I need a clamp for my warping peg, and there's no heddle hook either, and I've also lost the heddle hook for my shaft, so I'm going to maybe steal my spinning wheel orifice hook and see if that will do the trick. So yeah, I need to just disappear and find the tools that I need to actually get this going. So this is my Ashford 16-inch loom. I am using this scarf that I've just showed you as kind of a reference point. I want my warp to be slightly narrower than this. It's been a while since I've done this, so it'll probably take me a minute to figure out what I'm doing. And I've set up my warping peg for my shaft loom over on the other side of the room. I do have a no chat video somewhere back on the channel. I'll try and link it up above, showing me warping up, I think maybe for this project, which is basically using the same setup as this, just a different loom. So I probably won't bother recording me warping up the loom this time, but if you're interested in taking a look at the setup that I've got and how I did it last time, then yeah, hop on over to that video if you would like to watch that. Loom is warped, so I have relocated to my living room. I need to go and, where I've put it, oh, I think it's behind me. I need to go and cake up this yarn so that I'm ready to get going properly. I think I mentioned earlier in the video that I was toying with the idea of creating, like separating this up and going from dark to medium to light to medium to dark. But because I haven't done any calculations in terms of how much of this yarn I'm going to use for the length of yarn that I've warped up, I think it might be too difficult to make that even, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know what quantity to reserve for each part of that. So I think I'm just going to wind it up into colour sections and just weave through as I've spun it. Yarn is all wound up and ready to go. I split it into sort of 3 smaller balls because I'll be only able to fit so much onto my shuttle anyway. I feel like I'm at a point where I need an intervention. Is there anyone with super organising skills who wants to come and sort me out? Because When I picked up this shuttle, this is the shuttle that came with the second-hand loom that I bought. It's quite sort of chipped, like the plywood's quite chipped around the ends there. It'll be okay if I can probably sand that down. But I was thinking, because I've got such a narrow piece of warp, I could use the shuttles from my shaft, which are nice and smooth. Can I find the shuttles for my shaft? No. I have no idea where they are. I feel like they might be in a project bag somewhere from the last time I was weaving. But in the course of looking for those shuttles, I did find the hook that I needed to help me warp up the loom. This is the sort of narrow end for pulling the yarn through the holes in the reed. What can you do? Anyway, let's get weaving. I've bought some white, probably acrylic, down to use as the waste to get me going on my warp. Weaving is coming along quite nicely. I'm having a few issues with my edges at the moment, but I think that's just me being out of practice, but that's okay. Part of me is wishing I'd warped the loom slightly wider. But yeah, hopefully I won't regret that decision. I feel like I've got quite a lot of yarn to go through, so yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether my warp lasts for the whole skein, for the whole of the handspun. We shall see. But I'm still on the brown section at the moment. I did a little bit yesterday evening, so yeah, I'm pleased with how it's coming so far. Apologies if we've got a bit of shaky cam going on. I left my tripod upstairs, but I wanted to check in and let you know how I'm getting on with my weaving. It's Tuesday, so I warped my loom up on Sunday, and last night I finished weaving the first third of my handspun skein, and I've wound up the second third of the yarn. If you remember, a couple of shots ago, I caked up my yarn into 3 different balls. So I've got the second third on the go now. I'm just about to start. So we'll be sort of stepping away from the browns and going towards these beautiful sort of golden mustard yellows. I'm hoping I can continue weaving at this sort of pace, although I'm not putting really any expectations on myself. But the first third took me 2 evenings to weave, so Sunday and yesterday. I could definitely sit and do this in one evening if I wanted to, but the wider loom is a slightly more uncomfortable prospect for me to sit in my usual position to weave, so I tend to sort of weave for short spurts and then take a break. If I can get this done by tomorrow night, Wednesday, then Thursday, Friday for the last third, and we might have this off the loom by the weekend. So yeah, that's definitely something to aim for. And this is the last section that I wove last night. So as you can see, we're already starting to sort of creep away from those browny tones into the more sort of yellowy tones. And I'm really, really loving how this is weaving up. I just hope that I get a decent length that I can use this for the scarf that I intend it to be. I thought I'd check in with my weaving, as the second half of this has become kind of a progress vlog. It's Thursday, yeah, Thursday early afternoon. I'm kind of low-key taking some time off today. I've done a few bits and pieces, but I'm not really working. I did go for this amazing walk down to the beach this morning. It's wet and windy here today, so I'll put in a little bit of footage of that because I know some of you like to see the beach. But if you're listening on headphones, then you might want to either turn the volume down or switch the volume off, because I'm going to leave the windy sounds in. So yeah, this is your warning. 3, 2, 1. So yeah, that was a really fun walk. Definitely blew the cobwebs out. Anyway, I'm here to chat about my weaving. I haven't quite managed to empty the second shuttle, but not too far off. So I still feel like I might be on track to get this finished by the weekend. My warp is definitely diminishing in terms of the space that I've got left to weave, so yeah, a bit of a concerted effort, and I'm sure I'll get this finished. I think I'm going to probably finish this Shuttleworth this afternoon, and then where is it, I can wind on the last quantity of fibre, and yeah, hopefully I'll get this done by the weekend. It's early afternoon on Saturday, and I've just got a couple of inches of weaving left, and then my scarf will be off the loom, or hopefully, fingers crossed, scarf. I have still got quite a lot of yarn left on my shuttle. I'm trying to find my shuttle. Oh, I'm almost sitting on it. But I'm not going to use all of this for my scarf because I'm nearly out of warp. So if I move up my loom, you can see I have reached the ends where I've tied that onto the apron bar at the back there. So I think I'm going to weave a few more inches up to around sort of halfway between here and where the reed is, I think. And then that should give me a nice bit of yarn left to make any fringing or tasseling that I want to do. So yeah, I'm gonna keep going for a bit, but we're almost there, almost there. I'm done. I'm ready to cut this off of the loom. It's Monday morning now. I could have done this yesterday, but didn't quite get around to it. Not done the best job with the hem stitching at the other end, and I forgot what sort of ratio I did my hem stitching at the other end. I might have done 4 warp threads at the other end, and I've done 3 this end, but so the sort of fringing on the scarf might look slightly different at the 2 ends, but hey, take better notes. I've got these really silly teeny tiny scissors, and I'm trying to hold the camera in one hand while I'm doing this. What could possibly go wrong? So as is standard, or at least standard for me in this type of video, my project has been finished and off the loom for a couple of weeks, and I'm just now getting round to recording the last section so I can get this vlog up and share it with you. So yeah, scarf is off the loom. So here I did show, I think the last bit of footage you've just seen is me sort of rolling this off the loom, but it's now been washed and finished. So this is what the scarf looks like. And if you watched my May making wrap up, you would have already seen this scarf. The only thing that I didn't show in that wrap up is how I decided to finish the scarf. The fringing was quite a lot longer, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to do a twisted fringe or a plaited fringe, but in the end I've chosen to just trim the fringe. I think I made it about 4 inches long, and I'm calling the project done. So yeah, I'm so thrilled with how this project turned out. I think it's a really great length for a scarf. I did have a teeny tiny little bit of my handspun yarn left, and if I was more prepared I would have brought that with me. Do I have it up here? No, I don't think I do. But I had sort of maybe 2 or 3 grams left. My warp ran out. I ran out of space to keep weaving, so yeah, I did have a little bit of this sort of lightest colour left. But yeah, it was a really fun project. I'm really happy that I have finally cracked a good length for a scarf for weaving, and I'm really happy with how the spin turned out. I did kind of manage that sort of forced gradient effect that I was going for. So yeah, it was a successful project all round. I'm really happy with the results, how it turned out, and it's really reinvigorated my interest in weaving again. So I'm sure there'll be some more weaving, some woven fabric popping up on the channel soon. Yeah, time to wrap up the video. I think this is probably going to be a fairly long one, but I hope enjoyable, and I'll be back again soon with some more making content, so I hope you will join me for the next video. But until we do get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.